Hey everybody, happy Friday. It's George with your Fanatic Forum here. I've got a great show for you, talking with podcaster Ryan Permison. We're talking movies today, and I got some new comics to show you here. So we'll do that right after this. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your fanatic and host, George Bueller. Oh, we got a good one for you today here, folks. I've got Ryan Permison on here, the host of, and I quote, from Nerd Culture, and also one of our fellow cereal box ites, I guess we want to call us. Anyway, and of course, got some new comics to share with you guys. But Ryan and I are talking movies today, and of course, we got a bunch of other good stuff to talk about. So, enough about all that jazz here. But of course, I do want to point out for the everybody else here joining us that we do have. Of course, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, and of course, I love to have more people join us on the Fanatic Forum here. So, a little bit of business here. Like and subscribe on our Facebook page here, or also you can subscribe to the YouTube page as well under Fanatic Forum. So, get all that business out of the way because we got some good stuff to talk about today here. So, all right, I bring to you folks my guest at this time. Let me get this on here. All right, here we go. All right, my guest at this time, the host of, and I quote, one of my new friends here and fellow geek, Mr. Ryan Permison. Come on down, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. This is going to be fun, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. So, of course, we are both new to the Back of the Cereal Box Network here. So, but I figured this would be a good time to get to know each other a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, of course, you've been podcasting for a little bit longer than I have on your own. So, with your show, and I quote. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Ryan. I'm the host of And I Quote. It goes down Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I interview content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from any and all corners of the nerd universe. So I focus on writers, producers, actors, directors, comic book writers, comic book illustrators, publishers, all the things that make, in a way, make nerd what it is today. And granted, the rest of my guest list for this year 2022 is full. I got a full slate already, and I gotta say I'm taking a bit of a different turn with my show in terms of certain guests that I'm having on, because I'm so used to the
Okay.
same Rick and roll of comic books or books or publishers, whatever. And I don't mind it. Listen, everyone who comes on my show, I love you guys. I seriously do. But I'm opening my doors to a few other different avenues. Some people who do a few other things than just some of the other things that I've spoken about. So I'm curious to how this bit of a new turn and twist on my show is going to go. Is it going to lead to greatness, or is it going to read down Route 666 with Sam and Dean Winchester and Supernatural and go straight to the bottom of the barrel, which means not good stuff? So I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but it's a fun show. I've been doing it for about 2 years now with And I Quote. It's been great experience. I enjoy doing it every single week. Everyone who comes into my studio virtually, I consider a friend. I consider a colleague, and it's great. It's great to make connections and network with other people because this is a big world out there, and we are, to certain degrees, we can be considered small fish in a big pond. So it helps to network with people and promote other people's projects because there are two things that go into that. One, sharing is caring, and two, teamwork makes the dream work. So I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, of course, I was on a viewer on your show last night when you were celebrating the 45th anniversary of the original Star Wars: A New Hope. That was a lot of fun. That was a good watch along. Yeah.
It was great. It was a great time. Yeah, that was fun. It was me, Dave Adams, and Ray Tessie, and those are two good friends of mine. I love those guys. Dave's got some words. Dave has words. He always has his notes in front of him. He's got certain points he likes to share with us. He also has some tangents that he likes to go on. Sometimes I'm a fan of it. Sometimes I'm not. But Dave, I love you, brother. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're all fans in our own unique way. That is the main point. Whether you like something that I don't or he likes something that it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're all fans here. We're just fans in a certain way. That's all.
From a certain point of view.
Yes,
right?
yes. Let's drop some Kenobi knowledge since that new series dropped today with not one, but two episodes in the same day.
And of course, we won't get into them just in case not everyone's got around to watching them yet. But first impressions for me, glorious. Yeah, I'm absolutely impressed. I'm growing up on the original, the Holy Trinity. I am not so much a big fan of the prequels. I like them kind of for what they were, but it's like, I'm of an older generation, so I kind of look at those like, those were good try. Now I do understand that there's an entire generation beyond me that those are their movies. But I mean, granted though, from that, I think Ewan McGregor's performance was one of the best things from those movies. I think those movies gave us the Clone Wars series. They gave us Rebels. So I have to give them credit for the extended universe stuff, that we got from them. So, but it almost kind of, watching these two episodes of Kenobi almost kind of made me appreciate the prequels and kind of want to go back and revisit them again.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That makes me not want to revisit episodes 2 and 3. But when it comes to the prequel trilogy, just the prequel trilogy, not counting some of the other stuff that went down. But no, after these first two episodes, and I said this on my social media today, I said there were surprises that didn't see that a few of them I didn't see coming. I was very surprised. And the other thing was I dropped at the end because I don't want to give away any spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it. Because I've gotten comments that says, "Don't spoil for me. I'm watching it tonight, or I'm watching it this weekend." Blah blah blah. I'll just say this: in the words of speaking of an iconic character, after watching these two episodes, and I'll be honest with you, George. I'll be honest with you. I was not looking forward to this series at all. Okay. I didn't even want this series because I thought, you know what, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's in the desert for 19 years overlooking Luke. That's it. Yeah. That's it. That's all he does. Why should I care? Why should I give a crap about what Obi-Wan Kenobi's been doing for 19 flipping years when we already know what he did? But apparently, we may not know everything we thought we did because these two episodes do shed some light on some things that may not have been discovered or were not discussed in the prequels or the original trilogy or even the sequel trilogy for that matter. So I got to say, I was not looking forward to this at all. I was very, very skeptical, very not into it. But I said, listen, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch it. See what happens, if my mind changes or if something turns, we'll see what happens. Now, granted, I'm still not going to forgive Hayden Christensen for what he did in those prequels because they're god-awful. But when his scenes come up, because he's supposed to appear in this series, so we don't know when, we don't know where, we don't know how. Right. Yeah. But when he shows up, if I see some good actual acting and not horrendous, butchered, terrible dialogue and wooden acting that we got from him in 2 and 3, I'll tell you what, I will say that, and we made a bet with Dave Adams here. I said, Dave, if this happens, if Hayden Christensen proves me wrong, and he has to do a really good job in those scenes, by the way. Yeah. I will go on record in front of 20,000 people in the arena that night, and I will say, Hayden Christensen, I'm sorry that I gave you so much crap for those prequels, because it wasn't all his fault. I do know it wasn't all his fault, but when what you see on screen, it's pretty bad. It's really bad. But Hayden, if you prove me wrong, I will go on record and I will apologize. But it's not going to happen right now. But I'll say this, George. After watching those two episodes, and I dropped this on my social media without giving anything away because I don't want to give away spoilers. Sure, yeah. Impressive. Most impressive. That's what I got to say about those two episodes. I saw some things, didn't see coming, surprises. The score's pretty darn good. They weave this stuff in really well. So, and Ewan McGregor, I got to say, man, it's good to see you back. And you look the part. You legitimately look the part because it takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, which isn't necessarily a spoiler. But 10 years after that, he looks, he looks beaten. He looks grizzled. He's tired. He's beat up.
Like he's been living in the desert.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the desert. What is it called? The desert diet does the body good. No, it doesn't. But
Yeah. Well,
it looks good, man. I gotta say, it looks good.
It's hell on the skin. Yeah.
Yeah, but the show looks good from what I've seen thus far, without going into spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just very impressed with it. Some fun companion stuff. If you're looking for kind of maybe not necessarily what to expect, maybe a little more clarity in kind of what the direction the series is going. The Jason Aaron run of the recent Star Wars comics.
Hmm.
There's a few interspersed issues where basically it's a standalone issue where Luke is looking through Kenobi's old journals, and that whole issue becomes a flashback to Obi-Wan Kenobi's adventures on Tatooine before we catch up to him in A New Hope. So there's about 2 or 3 issues in the Kenobi run, and then in the current run right now that I think was it Charles Soule who's doing them, or I can't remember who's doing the current Star Wars comic right now, even though I'm reading the dang book. Anyway, but they are just kind of doing the exact same thing, where they're going back and looking in the old Kenobi journals and finding some more adventures and whatnot. And there's actually a mini series that's out that's kind of a bit of a companion to the show, but also kind of going on with a little bit what's going on in the books as well. So yeah, so lots of great Star Wars stuff to come out.
Lots of content. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, content.
The biggest word we're going to use tonight. There's lots of content out there in the world that we can chew on. Believe me, we are not the first ones to bring this up.
We certainly are not. And we do have a couple of people tuning in already here and dropping some comments. So, of course, we got to say hi to our fearless leader, Johnny.
Hi,
here.
Johnny. Good to see you, Johnny. Always good to see Johnny.
Yes, it sure is. And, of course, John and I get to hang out tomorrow at the Bowling Green Comic and Toy Show at the Corvette Museum. So anybody in the Bowling Green, Elizabethtown, any of the Kentuckiana area, you know where the Corvette Museum is. It's a short trip down the old expressway there. But yeah, Martin Kleba is going to be the guest of honor from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Got a couple of wrestlers there, some plenty of artists. Larry Elmore is going to be there. The all hail the classic fantasy artist Larry Elmore. If you've seen anything from Dungeons and Dragons, you've seen Larry's art. Yeah, so so excited. Also, Tone Rodriguez, the artist for Stray Dogs, is going to be there too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you've ever read that book, that's man.
I haven't read it, but I've seen it come across the social media lights.
As books go, the premise is it sounds horrible, but Tone's art really kind of counteracts the terribleness of it. Basically, it's a story of a serial killer, but it's told from the point of view of the dogs of that guy's victims. Because basically, the dogs are never harmed, the killer will kill the owner and then take the dog and take care of him. So then basically, he has all these stray dogs.
Now I get it. Okay, yeah. That sounds like a horror film waiting to happen.
It very much is, but like I said, Tone Rodriguez's art is very like almost kind of like Disney-ish kind of look to it. So it really
interesting.
It really counteracts the actual tone of the story, what's going on. So it's very good. And of course, for horror fans, they love doing variant covers that would like mimic classic horror movie posters and whatever else. And they've done all kinds of stuff from the Coppola Dracula, Creep Show, Audition. So yeah, I had to explain what Audition was to somebody. They weren't familiar with that film. Like, okay, well, so are you the Korean, the horror film, the Japanese horror film craze, like, okay, it's one of those. It's a rough one though. Little gory.
yeah. I mean, I like the horror genre, but to a degree. I'm not the biggest horror fan, but I do like it to a degree, and there are exceptions to the rule. So I've seen my fair share of horror or gore, whatever. I mean, I've seen some keep it family friendly. I've seen some stuff. Let's just put it that way. Some things I'm not proud of. Some things I'm like, oh, that was actually a good movie, even though it was barbarically scary, and I'm probably going to be kept up tonight. But there's some good stuff out there. It depends. Everyone's different. Everyone's taste is different. That's the thing about horror.
So, sure is.
Yeah.
And Marianne's also saying hello to us as well. So
hello.
Good to see you. Yeah, Marianne's an old friend there, and another.
Oh, okay.
So yes, good stuff. So well, hey, before we get let's talk about movies. I got to share some comics with you guys here because, as I always do on the show, I like to share new books that came out this week. So, and I've got 5 good ones and one not so good one that I would like to steer people away from. I've never done this before, but this is a book that really kind of actually, I want to get to that one first because it's got me a little amped up. I haven't been this hyped up about a book in a negative aspect in a long time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
just do it like a band-aid, one motion, right up.
Yeah. So this week I bring you Batman Fortress.
Oh, wow.
So this is the first issue in an 8-issue miniseries. And normally, there's a lot of Batman miniseries that are going on right now. I mean, DC loves their Batman books. They love publishing them all kinds. Well, this one, strangely enough, is brought to you by writer Gary Whitta, which, if you may recognize him as the screenwriter, one of the screenwriters for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He also was the screenwriter for The Book of Eli, another very good film. And the art is done by Derek Robertson, who is one of the co-creators of The Boys, along with Garth Ennis. So no complaints about Derek's art. Derek, very good job. Well done, sir. Gary, on the other hand, got lots of bones picked with you about this here book, sir. First off, for a first issue of a miniseries, this was very boring. The whole premise is there's this worldwide blackout. Maybe aliens are causing this. We don't know yet. But the big question is, where's Superman? Because, hey, he kind of handles all kinds of big stuff like this. Can't find Superman. Okay, so we think, maybe we're going to get things going and whatnot. Okay, by the end of this first issue, I'm going to spoil stuff here for you guys because I don't want you all I really don't want you folks to spend money on this. I really don't. By the end of the issue, we don't know if it's aliens yet. Still don't know where Superman is. Still didn't see where Superman went. So nothing happens in this book. What does happen, though, is you get a depiction of famed detective Harvey Bullock dating back to the Batman the Animated Series. Harvey hasn't been a jerk, drunken, bitter, I hate everything, where's that stupid Bats guys? He hasn't been like that in 30 years. Alfred is alive, which is interesting because he hasn't been alive and recently, maybe 5 years or so, but he's alive in this book. So, okay, I don't know what time period this thing's taking place in. Batman has a couple of dialogues, since basically there's a worldwide blackout, there's some writers going on. Batman has a couple interior dialogues that just screams grumpy old white man that does not say anything about Batman whatsoever. So it's just no, folks, it's only $3.99. Don't do it. Here's the thing that bothered me about it, because normally, when a celebrity writer is going to do a book, you hear about it right away. I heard about this a week before it came out. And whoa, okay. And they got Derek Robertson, okay, 3rd season of The Boys is coming out, so people know who he is. What's up? Now we know why.
No, that's unfortunate. Although I will say The Book of Eli is one of the most criminally underrated films of all time.
Excellent film. Such
a great film. The score alone in that movie is brilliant. Brilliant.
Or the constant use of that Al Green song.
All of it. Just all of it. All of it. The score is great. Was it Denzel? Is Denzel. He's never really done anything wrong in the history of his career. I don't think so. Mila Kunis is very good as a supporting character, like the apprentice of Eli. And you got Commissioner Gordon playing the bad guy with Gary Oldman. I mean, come on. I mean, it's so underrated, that movie.
Just an excellent film. I agree.
I'm so happy to say that I own that precious thing on Blu-ray, my friend. That's a movie you need to have on Blu-ray in your house.
Nice.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Book of Eli is solid.
Yeah, excellent film. So I don't know what happened. I think somebody thought they could. I mean, that's the thing. We've seen a lot of screenwriters come into comics recently. John Ridley is a fantastic example. But John Ridley is killing it. If he's writing for DC, if he's writing for Marvel, doesn't matter. If John Ridley's writing a book, buy it. It will be good.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. So, but DC did redeem itself a couple of times this week here. The next issue here of Beyond the White Knight just came out here. This is kind of still taking place in the White Knight kind of universe of Batman. Here's Sean. Was it? Yeah, Sean Murphy. Hang on, I'll make sure I got the names guys right. Sean Murphy is kind of the creative mastermind behind this whole thing here. This is the third series now. And this is kind of borrowing from the Batman Beyond sort of thing, because they're introducing the Terry McGinnis character.
Ooh, nice.
In this. So this is the third issue into this series. So just wonderful art. Dave Stewart does the inking, the colors on here. Just a fantastic series. We're using Batman characters in familiar ways, but kind of some different stuff's going on. Of course, you can see a little bit in the future because we're got an older looking Batman here. So yeah, just great stuff. So highly recommend that. I know the first two issues are fairly easy to get a hold of. So yeah, definitely want to check that out.
Nice.
One more thing here: DC versus Vampires, a one shot here called Hunters.
Homeland.
Get a little glare off here. This one definitely features Damian Wayne. This is still taking place in the DC versus Vampires miniseries there. Tom Taylor, who loves playing in the Marvel and DC sandboxes, and just like he loves putting all of our heroes in terrible situations and killing off as many of them as possible. And so this one's basically vampires invading the DC universe. And so, but this one shot here, I love Damian. Absolutely love Damian. And so putting a sword in his hand, just letting him get to kill vampires, I'm all about that. So even if you aren't necessarily reading the whole series, just kind of know that a lot of superheroes are now vampires. And just if you love Damian, just pick that one up.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Not sure if you've been checking this out yet. The new Punisher series from Marvel. Jason Aaron has got a hold of Frank Castle in this one here. The interesting thing about this is that Frank Castle is now working for the Hand, the evil ninjas.
Yeah. I was like, oh, you're working for the dark side now. Okay.
Yes, and interestingly enough, they found a great way to rope him in. This issue here's the third issue into the series, kind of getting a interesting kind of origin story of possibly Frank's first kill, which predates before he became a Marine and fought in Vietnam. So as a child, maybe he started his run against evil criminals. Yeah, so just I love when Jason Aaron kind of will just play with a certain character. He's done this with Thor, done this with several other characters, and now he's doing it with Punisher, and really making him probably the most interesting he's been in a very, very long time.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, couple more before we get started on here. New issue of the Hulk here. This is full on into the Banner of War miniseries that basically is the Hulk versus Thor.
Ooh, okay.
Never before have you seen the two of them go at it like you've seen them in this thing here. This started in the Banner of War Alpha issue and then goes in 2 issues of Hulk, 2 issues of Thor. So we are almost at the end of this. But at the end, we have a literal explosion of power because, like I said, we got 2 giant powerhouses going on right here. And interestingly enough, we have writer powerhouse himself, Donny Cates, who is currently writing both books. So it's probably one of the easiest crossovers to do.
Nice.
Yeah. But just the raw power of the two of them caused this grand explosion. And what happens will stun readers. Whether or not this is a permanent thing remains to be seen.
There you go.
Actually, here, Dave Mattingly, one of our loyal viewers here, says the most interesting thing about the Punishers in a long time. Yeah, the Cosmic Ghost Rider series. Yes, that also another very interesting way to use Frank Castle, though not as the Punisher. So, yeah. Last but not least, an indie book here to check out for vampire fans. Bloodstained Teeth is worth a look here. Let's see, Christian Ward and Patrick Reynolds are people behind this one here. Very nice concept, kind of a uh, vampire for hire sort of thing. You could go to vampires and become one for a certain fee, and now the whole vampire clan says, you know what? Yeah, we don't like you doing this anymore, so just go out and kill all the people you've done this to.
Oh, geez.
And so there's been a wide variety of people he's turned. And in this issue, there's a boxer who he turned and is currently a vampire. And yeah, so
vampires seem to be the rage these days.
Well, this one's kind of a cool series just because the art is very kind of stylized here, and high colors, very noirish look here.
Okay.
And yeah,
I could see that. I guess I can kind of dig that.
Just an interesting concept, interesting arts. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Sounds like fun. Don't forget to pick these up at your LCS. # always support your local comic shops, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. So you've been reading anything? I know you said you've got a lot of stuff to catch up on.
It's a mountain. This is the thing about me that's happened recently in the last several months, if not maybe more so than that. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I buy things and then I don't read them. So it's like I enjoy collecting things, but I don't actually sit my keister down and read these gosh darn things called comic book or graphic novels, y'all. But you know what? Listen. I'm going to get back in the swing of things because I already told, Brian Robin, he and I are going to be sitting down tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next weekend, and I'm going to be reviewing Memoirs of an Angel Volume 1, which I did read prior to the original arrangement that we have, and unfortunately he had to cancel, he had to reschedule somewhat at the last minute because he wasn't feeling well, which, hey, Brian Robin, take care of yourself, man. Your health always comes first. So
yes.
I said, okay, well, I guess I'll just read it again, a day or two before we go live. So I have it, it's fresh in my mind because that's only fair to Brian. That's fair to me. So I'm going to read that. I'm going to read another few paperbacks and so on and so forth. And let's just say this, it's a lot. But I'm looking, listen, I've only been reading comics 5 years. I'm still a baby, still a novice. But I'm learning as I go, and I'm enjoying what I'm learning as I go. And trust me when I tell you, every time my LCS has a 50% off all paperbacks and hardcovers, ours edition, blah 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 sale, I seem to always jump on it, but then I never read these things. I buy them on sale, but then I end up not reading them until it's like, long ways off. But
it's all right.
All I can do is just try. Just keep on trying. Even though my master Yoda would tell me there's do or do not. There is no try. So I got to get back on the high horse here, man, because if I can sit down and watch 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi in one day, I can definitely read a couple paperbacks in a day. I just gotta pull a Nike and just do it. So yeah, other than that, if you want to know, I bought recently some Jack Kirby books like Superpowers, The Forever People, Steve Orlando's crossover between Batman and the Shadow from Dynamite Comics.
That's a good one.
Crisis on Infinite Earths because of the late passing of George Perez. So that's sitting over here, the paperback, I should say, of Crisis on Infinite Earths, not the hardback. What's another one? A Marvel Volume 2, What If? The original Marvel What If series is sitting here. So trust me when I tell you, it's a plethora, Pepe. It's a plethora. So I just got to get on it. But thanks for having me, and I will just see myself out because I feel like I just lost a whole lot of nerd cred. But I'm trying.
Dude, do not apologize because granted, I've got my weekly haul that I try to pick through. It's like, okay, what are the books I really want to talk about this week? Right. I had 16 books this week. God. So I had a lot of stuff to read there. But then I buy older books too. Some things I haven't read, some things I've got full runs of Avengers, Captain America, and Thor.
Really?
And so I'm now in a unique position where I can replace copies, of my lesser quality ones. I can replace them. So I've never been in this position before as a collector, but I've been collecting for 42 years. So
that's a long time. Although I will say I did get this in the mail this week, and this is one of the other paperbacks I'm going to be reading soon. I'm actually going to be interviewing him on my show later on this year. Rob Multuri has this series called Nightwolf.
Ooh,
so I got Nightwolf Volume 1. So this is a trade paperback by Rob Multuri and company from Lone Wolf Comics.
That's cool.
Which this looks rad. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest fan of certain monsters and things like that, but I'm willing to give this a shot because it's about a young man who discovers his lineage of being a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
and he finds out like there are other people that are after him, and they want to like find out more about his lineage and find out where some of his family members may or may not be hiding, or they just want to kill him. So, do you know what I mean? Like it's a mixture of Underworld meets what's the other one that was like radical, like Underworld, Resident Evil, Blade. You know, like all those kind of things rolled into one. So Rob Multuri, I don't know if you're watching this or not, pal, but I did message him the other day. I said, listen, I got the book in the mail, just so you know. And I'm looking forward to reading it. And I'm actually, I think I'll bring him on one of my shows and do a review for him, respectively. So Rob, pay attention to your messenger because you may be getting more messages from me regarding that in the future. It may not be tonight, may not be tomorrow, but bottom line is it's like a movie trailer that says coming soon. So just stay tuned. That's all I can say. Hi, John. Good to see you in the comments again.
Yes. Hey, and our buddy Dave Mattingly has got a good recommendation for you, and I support this one here. Astro City is definitely worth a look. Kurt Busiek is the writer on there. Alex Ross sometimes does the art, and usually Alex does the covers. But this is kind of like kind of has like a golden age superhero kind of feel to it.
Sure.
But like superheroes existing, it's kind of it kind of has it's a good companion to the Watchmen because it's a less bitter. It's superheroes existing within the real world and how that kind of rolls around. So
there you go.
Yeah. So interesting stuff here. So and John says he's getting loaded up for Bowling Green here, so I'll get to see him tomorrow morning. So
yay.
Astro City's worth a look. It's independent. I can't remember if it's Dynamite or somebody puts that out, but
I'll have to look it up one of these days. Like I said, I got 50 billion titles here, Dave.
I know. Yeah. I've got I've got some trades myself that stuff I've looking through, and let me show you this beast here.
I feel like this is more of a show and tell night than anything else. This is just show and tell.
Here.
Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah.
Cut the chatter, Red 2. Sorry. That was a Star Wars line. Sorry. But this, I think it said the Avengers on it. Is that what I'm reading?
Yes. This is an Avengers. It's called the Vibranium Collection.
Jeez.
It's literally like a best of, and it's like this giant Gutenberg Bible.
Yeah, it looks that way. I mean, look at the size of this thing, man. It's bigger than a freaking Death Star.
I mean, this thing is hefty.
That is that's pretty much the same size as my Volume 2 What If from Marvel that I got at the LCS, the omnibus that I have here.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty massive.
No, that omnibus, I know those omnibuses well. This thing weighs probably about, I'm saying
20 pounds,
20 to 30 at least.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm struggling to put it back in the box.
See that? Yes, it's not. He's trying to do something inappropriate on camera, ladies and gentlemen. It's that he's having trouble putting the book back on the shelf.
Good Lord!
Yeah, that's another workout right there. Okay.
Lifting day here. Jeez Louise. All right. So before we get into our movie talk here, I do want to have a word from our sponsor here, Comics for Kids, a very noble charity here. So we'll do that, and we'll be right back.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
Yeah, see, a wonderful thing here. Because I love getting out comic books like a little. I consider myself the Johnny Appleseed of comic books. I just love passing them around to people, sort of thing like that. And so this is a charity that's right up my alley.
Hey, James is here. Dude, it's so good to see you. Across the Pond Sports Network. What's going on, James? So good to see you, buddy. It's been a hot minute since I've seen you. I know you pop on Clubhouse. I know you ping me to a couple of rooms. Unfortunately, I can't make it at those points because it's maybe busy at the time or I'm eating dinner. It's a time difference because, he lives overseas in Scotland. So,
wow.
Yeah, James, good to see you, man. I hope you and the
sir.
family are doing well, my young friend.
Welcome. All right. That's awesome.
I know. We got people in Scotland, for God's sake. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's great, isn't it, Dave? It is so good to see you too, man. You're always chiming in with some fun facts. Let me tell you, that guy is super smart.
Yeah, yeah, I love Dave, and Dave's the reason why Johnny and I met. So there
Oh,
you go.
there you go. See, he brings people together. That's one of his superpowers.
Yes.
Hmm.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, before the show here, we were talking all kinds of like geekery that has come out this week.
A lot.
I mean, of course, for the '80s fans, we've got the Top Gun sequel finally is out. But then what? The sequel that I'm really excited for, and I know you are too. Mission Impossible 7.
Oof, man, that trailer, and it's got a good cast in it. It's got a heck of a cast.
It does. I mean, I love seeing all the young stars, but like
Mhm.
I popped as soon as when you're hearing this voice, like, wait, I'm hearing this voice, like I know that voice. And
Mhm.
then you finally see Henry Sears and he pop on screen. I'm like,
Dude,
Kittredge is back.
that's
And he's
crazy because we haven't seen him since the first film. That's crazy. When I saw him, I was like, Henry Czerny's in this?
I mean, it's one of my favorite character actors, especially of like the late
good.
80s and 90s. He's just one
good.
of the great villainous guys.
He's a great villain actor. He's so good at it. Seriously, even in the first one, and I see this in the trailer for Tom. There was like a best of Tom Cruise trailer that's on the YouTube's. It's been out for years because it was on a
Mhm.
DVD release of one of his other films, whatever it was. And he says, "I can see you're very upset. You've never seen me very upset." Like, oh my god, it's like, oh, so good. They're probably not going to drop that in this movie, but if they do it as a throwback, oh man, I'd probably lose my mind if after he says you need to pick a side, and then he looks at Tom because you see Tom's look. He's like, I'm not really happy about this. But then if he drops that line from the first one again, I can see, Mr. Hunt, that you're very upset. And then he just drops the right in his eyes, like, you've never seen me very upset. Like, never. You've never seen me very upset. I'd probably lose my mind just a little bit because I love that line in the trailer of the original film, and I like it in the original film. So, God, it's crazy how they're tying all these films together. Tom doesn't need to do that. His producers don't need to do that. The directors don't need to do it, but they do it anyway. They do it anyway.
He's made his own little Mission Impossible world, and I've been down for it.
Oh, I mean, man, ever since, listen, I've watched them all, but ever since, for me, 3 through 6 have just keep getting bigger and better and faster. Each one is just building upon the other, and like, man, Fallout was something. Fallout was something. Especially when you got my boy Henry Cavill, Super Loop, who unfortunately never got his own Superman trilogy, which still ticks me off. Warner Brothers in DC. It ticks. No. He didn't get his own trilogy. He got a character arc, yes, but he didn't get his full fleshed out Superman trilogy that he so rightfully deserved.
Well, you never know. You never know.
He never got it. I mean,
he's still alive.
He is. He's not dead.
Warner Brothers is wanting to do a lot of restructuring.
That is true. New people are coming in. People are dropping the hammer on certain projects and bringing in other people in. They canceled all the CW shows, so they're like cleaning house and making room for new things. So who knows? But Henry, I know you watch this show week in and week out, but I really hope you get your own trilogy one day because that is something that's been oozing in the back of my mind so much because I love his iteration as Superman. I love his character. I love the way he plays it, the way he's real, he's raw, and he's a good-looking dude. So Henry, do it. Just keep doing you, man. Like he's doing Witcher season 3. He's doing few other things he's got in the can right now. So he's a busy dude. But Henry, if they bring you back as Superman, give him his own freaking trilogy, man.
Seriously. Well, there's DC is kind of opening up their own multiversal can of worms, as we're seeing in this upcoming Flash movie, possibly.
Oh man!
And then whatever the Flash, and then whatever this Batgirl series is going to be, which basically is going to have Batgirl, then Michael Keaton is reprising Batman. But then
in the
also,
Flashpoint movie.
But yeah, so we're getting double Keatons. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting Keaton over here and Keaton over here. But then the also confusing thing is that J.K. Simmons is reprising the role of Commissioner Gordon, but he's the Snyderverse Gordon.
Can you make up your minds, DC, and just cut it to the chase and not make it so complicated for the rest of us?
So there's nothing. I mean, and of course. The fans have basically said we want to see the Calvin Johnson Superman on screen at least once, And if you're going to do that, why not cast Michael B. Jordan? You know, so we can have, you know, the Black Superman, because I've said this in a podcast, another friend of mine's podcast, is like, as Superman movies go, they always play on the hope thing, and you know, the voice of the voiceless, and you know, helping out, you know, people who need, you know, real help. Like, well, people of color could probably use a good, hopeful character like that. Why not have a Superman that is a person of color?
You never know.
Why not? I mean, yeah, that'd be interesting to know.
James brings up a good point. Henry Cavill for James Bond. Dude, he has been, listen, if no one knows this, and I think most people do, he was this close to being James Bond before Daniel Craig stepped in. He was he was second in line. Like, they were going to cast Henry Cavill for Casino Royale, give him the job, but then something went amiss, or I think he was still filming The Tudors for Showtime at that point, so that Henry couldn't do it at the time. I can't remember the exact, you know, circumstances, I apologize, but Daniel Craig got Bond because Henry had to step away. So Henry easily could have been James Bond at that point. But listen, he's done now. Daniel Craig is, you know, he's no longer James Bond. If you saw No Time to Die, you know what I'm talking about, because I finally got around to see it. It took me a hot minute here, George, but I finally sat my keister down and I watched No Time to Die. What a way to end that portion, not the entirety, but that portion of the franchise with how that thing ended. I was like, whoa, they went that direction? Okay, it's ballsy, it's risky, but I'm okay with it. It works. It works for what Daniel Craig was trying to do. But listen, if Henry doesn't get Superman back for the next 3-4 films, give him James Bond. He can kill it in any of that. Any of it, he can do it. Henry, I know you're watching this. We believe in you, man. You can do it. Just do it, Henry.
And the thing touching real quick on No Time to Die, I loved all the callbacks throughout the Daniel Craig series, every kind of wrapping that up. But if you're a classic Bond fan, there were so many references to You Only Live Twice in this movie. Essentially, the ending of You Only Live Twice gets flip-flopped. But we still get we still get the Louis Armstrong. We have All the Time in the World still playing at the end, even though it's a different singer. It was Louis Armstrong. Yeah. So, but yeah, like the end of You Only Live Twice, the Sean Connery Bond gets married. He retires as James Bond. They drive off in the sunset, and then agents of Spectre pull up alongside and kill Bond's lovely wife.
I believe that was in On Her Majesty's Secret Service with Lazenby and Diana Rigg as his wife.
Yeah, and then of course the next film we see is Diamonds
Are Forever.
And then the whole opening of that movie is like Sean Connery just whooping all kinds of Spectre ass because he's on a revenge.
That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down on another show, George. We should do like a best of Bond, because later this year in November of 2022, we're getting the 25th anniversary of Tomorrow Never Dies. That's my Bond right there. Pierce Brosnan was my generation's Bond, so let's give it up for Pierce. And yes, I like Tomorrow Never Dies. Don't come at me in the comments.
Over Goldeneye?
No, Goldeneye is still my favorite of his run, but Tomorrow Never Dies, I still like that film. His run, I like Pierce's 3 films. The 4th one, Die Another Day. The less said about that movie, the better. No offense, Pierce. I love you, Pierce, but that film was not your greatest swan song, okay? I'm sorry. It's not your fault, but it wasn't a great swan song. But the first 3 I really liked. And then this year we're getting the 10th anniversary of Skyfall, the 25th anniversary of Tomorrow Never Dies, and we're getting the 35th anniversary of The Living Daylights with an underrated Bond actor by the name of Timothy freaking Dalton. So there's a Bond trilogy watch-along that maybe George will be on with us later this year. You never know.
Nice. And I've always said that the Timothy Dalton Bond, if we didn't have him, we wouldn't have got Daniel Craig, because Timothy Dalton was the precursor.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time.
Like he was the dashing looks, but he was also a rougher Bond.
He was grizzled. He was tired. He was tired of being an agent. He wanted to retire. He even says in the movie, he's like, "Stuff my orders. I only kill professionals." You know, he's just like, you know what I mean? Like, he's sticking it to the authority. He's like, "I'm tired of this. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm tired." Like, if you go back and watch The Living Daylights, great theme song by Aha, by the way. And then License to Kill by Gladys Knight, the theme song. Not she didn't direct the film, but License to Kill, those are some rough films, man. Like, those are some rough. But yeah, listen, it's Bond, James Bond. There are 3 movies that celebrate anniversaries this year, and I may just do an anniversary watch along for all 3 of them, George. To be honest with you, I may do it because I do like all 3 movies for different reasons.
Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, that sounds like a plan to me. But yeah, the Dalton Bond was highly under. I was when he was cast, I was excited. Growing up, being a huge Flash Gordon fan, Prince Baron as James Bond. Yes, please, thank you, sir. So I was excited about that.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm of a certain generation where, yeah, I mean, when Flash Gordon came out, that was big stuff. Yes, it's very loud and Italian, but God bless it, I love that film. And you know what? There's a whole bunch of like people in the UK that love that film way more than us folks in the States do, and God bless those people too. You know,
it has its following.
It does, yeah.
Respectively.
Hang on, Dave's chiming in here. There we go. High five.
Yeah, there
Dave.
it is.
Yeah.
All
right, so we've been talking a lot of movies, which we were supposed to do that anyway, but we had a specific discussion that we were going to do here today, and I think we should go ahead and get to that. What do you say?
No, I'm up for it, man.
All right, so the mission was that we were to pick 3 movies that have like a very personal significance. I mean, they're not. You have your favorite movies, but there are some movies that just like these are above and beyond the others for whatever reason that may be. So you being my guest here at this time, Ryan, why don't you go first, sir?
It's a great question. All right, so just to be clear, these films are in no particular order. So I'm not saying just because I named this one first doesn't mean it's number 1 or number 2, whatever. These aren't ranked in any particular order. Let's put it that way. Number 1, but the first thing that comes to my mind, and speaking of James Bond, I got to go with Goldeneye from '95 because Goldeneye '95 was the first Bond film I ever saw, full length. First one I ever saw in the theater with my late father, God rest his soul. He's the one who introduced me to a lot of these properties. So if it weren't for my dad, I would not be a James Bond fan. Dad, I know you're watching from above. This film was so much fun when I saw it in the theater. I was too young to see it at the time, too, because there are some things that happened in that movie that I'm thinking, does that really happen? Did that woman just really do that to that guy? Like, is that a real thing? And look, little did we know that she would end up playing Jean Grey in the X-Men films with Famke Janssen. Good Lord, woman, you look hot back in '95, and you still do to this day, young lady. Listen, I'm a man, I'll admit it.
And that's a way to go. That's not bad.
It's not, no. So Goldeneye is 1 because Dad took me, and that means a lot to me personally because my dad took me to see it, and we saw it in the theater. It was my first Bond film. I was fully, 100% exposed to, no puns intended. So Goldeneye falls in that category. That's 1. Number 2, and this is not because a member of this, a cast member from this film passed away recently, but it's because it hits you in the feels no matter how young or old you get. And it's a movie for dreamers of all kinds. It's a movie that will really hit you in the feels for sure, especially at the last 5 minutes. Dad, you want to have a catch? Field of Dreams, 1989. And R.I.P. Ray Liotta, Shoeless Joe Jackson. Sorry to hear about you, good sir, but you were a great actor. Great as Shoeless Joe Jackson. You were the one who introduced us to that Field of Dreams. You were the first ball player that shows up. And Ray Kinsella, just that last 5 minutes, it hits you. Especially if you've lost a loved one of that, you know what I mean? Any loved one is one thing, but when you lose a dad and you don't get a chance to have one last catch with it, that's going to hit you. That's going to hit you in the feels. So my hat's off to Kevin Costner and every single person who worked on that. Phil Alden Robinson, I believe, was the director of that movie. One of the all-time greats. And the score by James Horner. Yeah. That is something that is very hard to top, very hard to compete with. And once again, R.I.P. to James Horner. He passed away somewhat recently in the last 5 or 10 years. Great people worked on that film, and it's an inspirational film. It's a spiritual film. It's not so much a baseball movie as it is a dreamer, like go for it kind of dream kind of movie. It's a spiritual movie more than anything else. But the thing is very true in this film. If you build it, he will come. That is a fact. That is not just a statement. It is a fact. If you go after something and if you believe in something, the impossible will come true. I am telling you. Believe in it, my friend. So anyway, not to get too spiritual on the show, but that's number 2. So I know, not to get, you know what I mean? But number three, let's go with number 3 here for a minute, because this was hard thinking of 3 movies because there are so many freaking movies. But here's the deal, and this goes back to what I was saying about losing a loved one. I saw this movie 6 times in the theater. Most amount of time I've ever seen a movie in a theater up to this point. Still holds the record. I got to go with Force Awakens. Force Awakens was a film that we never thought we would get.
Yeah.
Force Awakens is something that we never saw coming. Force Awakens is something that brought people back to Star Wars. Force Awakens is what made me a bigger uber Star Wars fan than I was when I was a kid. Listen, I liked Star Wars when I was a kid, but I didn't like love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Force Awakens came out opening weekend 2015, 3 years after George Lucas sold the rights to Disney. And we were a little bit concerned. We were thinking, are they going to Disneyfy this too much? Are they going to, hammer it down? Are they going to make it too, you know what I mean? Like they were going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But walking in there and seeing that film on a big screen with 300 other screaming, yelling, sweaty fans in that room was just, it's like that theater experience. I don't think it's going to, depending on what movies come out next, I don't think it's ever going to be topped for me because being in that theater, the second or third time I saw it was with my 2 brothers. I have 2 older brothers. So I saw it opening week with my friends, and then the next time I saw it was with my brothers. As soon as the Lucasfilm logo comes up and then the magical words a long time ago in the Galaxy, my brother, and I'm sitting next to, he's on my left, okay? He's on my left. He was grabbing my arm and he was freaking out just for little words on the movie hadn't even really started. The words come up and then the John Williams theme kicks in and the theater itself, not just Kevin, my brother, but he was like, yeah, like, and then the opening crawl starts and then you see those words that we never thought we would see. Episode 7. Yeah. Episode 7. Never thought it would happen. Never. And he lost his mind. And when I see my middle brother sitting to the left of me, losing his marbles, I'm thinking, if our dad I know Dad is he's in here, but if Dad were here physically, I think he'd be just as excited, if not more, than my brother. I don't know because he wasn't physically there, but spiritually he was sitting there smiling from ear to ear. Dad, I knew you were doing it. Because he took us to see these films when they were re-released in 1997 when the special editions were coming out. Yeah. And I just loved those experiences, but I didn't fully appreciate them until that moment. Right. Until, you know what I mean? It's like the old saying, George, you don't know what you have until you don't have it anymore. Yeah. So when I see Force Awakens, and my dad couldn't be there in a physical sense, but when he sees that film, I'm thinking, this is why we go to the movies. This is why we buy these tickets, we sell out the houses, we batten down the hatches, and we scream our mouths off because we want to enjoy the experience. It's a communal experience. And when you're sitting in a room with 300 sweaty Star Wars nerds such as myself, we loved every minute of that movie. And I still do to this day. Listen, I know it has its naysayers. I know people say it's just a rehash of the original film, but I don't care. And I don't see it that way either. I don't care. I see it as a film that moves the story forward. I see it as an opening chapter for new characters at the time with Finn, Poe, Rey, and Kylo Ren. And we were set for that ride. And then the other 2 films came out, and that's a story for another day. But Force Awakens is one of the best things in sliced bread. I think it's one of the greatest cinematic experiences of anyone's life, including my own. So those are my 3, George. I know I kind of maybe cheated because we're on a Kenobi thing right now, and we talked about James Bond 2 minutes before this conversation. But you know what? Those films mean something to me because my family took me to see them, or we saw them to honor the memories of our loved ones. And I think that's one of the greatest things you can do when seeing a movie is honor the memory of your loved ones and say, listen, you may not be here in a physical sense, but we're doing this because you got us into this property. Yeah. And we love you all the more for it, because if it weren't for my brothers and my father, I wouldn't give a crap about Star Wars. I wouldn't care one iota about Star Wars. But Star Wars gives us hope. Yeah. In such a unique way that not other films can do that. Anyway, that's enough of my soapbox. George, what are your 3 movies that I know are not going to top mine?
No. Oh, no, you think, yeah. No, I feel you that, and I've had those similar experiences. Seeing a Star Wars film like that, where you get a bunch of people together. Mm-hmm. The re-releases were fun, but the first viewing of Phantom Menace, before anybody knew what we were seeing,
Yeah.
But that very first viewing, getting everybody into the theater together, I mean, that was magic. And then, yeah, I agree with you. Just getting to see an episode 7 that we never thought we'd see. I actually, being initially not a fan of the prequels, I was kind of excited about Disney's purchase of Star Wars because I already knew what they were doing with Marvel and allowing Marvel Studios to do their thing and letting that go. So, but nonetheless, though, I was kind of looking forward to it. So, granted, getting Rogue One, I'm sorry, Rogue One is to me, like Empire will always be my favorite Star Wars movie. Rogue One is number 2.
Oh, Rogue One's the best prequel. Forget the prequel trilogy fan, which I know we're going to get some hate for in the comments. But for me, Rogue One's the greatest prequel we ever got. Cinematically. Not counting the stuff that's going on now with like Mandalorian, Kenobi, and all that stuff. But the greatest prequel we're ever going to get cinematically is Rogue One. Nothing's going to top that.
For me, of the 4 films we've got right now, it is the best of the 4 films, in my opinion.
I would not. That is not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice. Good one.
So now we're gonna get to my
I'm curious how George is going to top that list I just gave you in the chat. So no, I'm just kidding. This is not a competition. This is just friendly people having a friendly conversation. That's all it is.
Well, I am going in biographical chronological order. So and I kind of talked about this on your watch along last night for this little gem right here.
Oh, I remember those DVDs from 06.
Yeah. So seeing Star Wars: A New Hope is my earliest memory. I was just a little over 2 years old. I was born in February '76. So this was during the '78 re-release.
Nice.
Because this movie was so popular in '77. And I mean, it basically was when it opened up in May, it ran almost to Christmas, which was unheard of. And so then Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox, like, hey, let's go ahead and put this out next summer. Just so here's 2-year-old me in the drive-in seeing this movie, and this was the second feature. The first movie, which was new, was a little ditty called Star Crash. Yes, a cheap knockoff movie, but it starred a very young David Hasselhoff.
Oh my God!
Yes. Not a great film, but basically it was definitely inspired by this movie. If it had a lot less budget, worse actors, and worse writing and effects.
Cheap knockoffs.
Yeah, very cheap. But it has a bit of a special place in my heart because basically it was the precursor to this little dude right here.
It's a good looking DVD too. That was the last legit copy of the original version that you got on DVD.
This is here's the thing. When the special edition was released on DVD, several months later, they released them singularly and did not tell anybody that, okay, disc 1, special edition of Star Wars. Disc 2 has a laser disc transfer of the original untouched movie.
Yeah, in all 3 of those. Yeah.
Yes, and I, of course, have the whole trilogy. So
good for you.
Very special to have because as of right now, we're not going to get... I'm surprised. Disney loves money and they love selling things to us. So I'm like, why don't you put the untouched versions on Blu-ray?
Yeah, they re-release the DVDs and Blu-rays of the other films on Blu-ray and DVD all the time at Target. You see them at Target all the time.
And all that stuff. It's like, we know they exist because the Library of Congress has the original versions of all 3 movies.
Maybe they'll wait till the 50th anniversary, 5 years from now.
But but Star Wars is really like not only to kick off my fandom, it kicked off my fandom as movies go. I'm like, what is that? This is amazing. Oh my God.
I want more, please. Will someone get this big walking carpet out of my way?
That line sounds familiar. But yeah, it just kicked off all kinds of stuff. And growing up, the drive-in was primarily where we went to go see movies.
Sure.
Where I grew up, and not until like the late '80s did we get a theater on our side. Because normally, when you grow up in Southern Indiana, Louisville is like the big city. And
really? Okay.
Yeah, it was considered. Yeah, it's considered. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Southern Indiana as well. I mean, it's small.
My only known geography of Kentucky is that I know Louisville, but I've been to Lexington for Lexington Comic and Toy Convention,
nice.
which is a great show, by the way. But I haven't been to other parts of Kentucky, which reminds me, I should probably pay you a visit over there in Kentucky.
We'll give you a little bit of geography there. So Louisville and Lexington are about 45 minutes apart. I live in Elizabethtown, and I'm about 45 minutes in the other direction of Louisville. So
gotcha.
I'm further south. So
cool. I should pay you a visit someday.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
We should all hang out, go to a convention, maybe buy some comics.
There you go. We'll buy all the comics. I go nuts at conventions. I really do, especially if I find the right vendor. So. All right.
What's door number 2?
Door number 2, another film saw the drive-in. I was the tender age of 8 years old, and this is the first R-rated film I ever saw. Now, the reason I wanted to see this is because I was a weird kid, and so not only did I grow up on comic books, I also grew up on like a lot of mythology, like Greek, Roman, Norse, a lot of stuff like that. But I also grew up on the writings of Mr. Robert E. Howard and his creation, Conan the Barbarian.
There it is.
So,
clash your enemies, see them driven before you.
Yeah. I'm wearing my shirt here too. Yeah.
He comes prepared for the shindig, folks. I got to be honest with you though, George. I watched 30 minutes of Conan the Barbarian, the 80, what was it, 84, I think it was, Schwarzenegger, and I gotta say, I got bored.
Really? Yeah.
I got bored. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even finish it. I was like, what the frack is going on here? I'm just so bored right now.
To me, that film is poetic. And fair. John Milius did that on purpose. Interesting thing about it, Oliver Stone did an early draft of the screenplay, and there was basically a couple of scenes that Oliver put in the movie that John's like, no, it's just too weird and trippy. So he left some of those scenes in, but kind of toned them down. There's a scene where young Conan stumbles upon a witch kind of in the wilderness, and she offers him a warm fire and whatever else, then things kind of get weird. Well, Oliver wanted that scene to get a little weirder.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah, even
I remember
weirder.
that scene.
Also, later in the movie, where Conan is thought to be dead, and so they're trying to resurrect him, and they're having a whole ritual thing with the wizard, stuff like that. That scene was also going to be very, very weird too. And the original script, it was weird. They want to do a lot more weird, trippy stuff in there. But like I said, to me, I mean, that was like I was all geared up because I'm Conan. I was, reading the books. I love the comics. And then like this R-rated epic featuring a lot of blood, lots of boobs.
Maybe some beautiful women thrown in there.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So
let's go. Get to the Conan the Barbarian chopper,
I love it. But
sorry.
And the funny thing was that we stayed for both films, and the second film was 48 hours.
Oh my God, dude! I just saw that. I just saw that for the first time during the lockdown, or somewhat post lockdown, whatever. Dude, 48 hours was like it. I thought it was going to be a straight up comedy, but it's more of a dark, gritty action film with sprinkles of comedy in it. Especially the redneck bar scene is hilarious. So it's a rough movie, but dude, 48 Hours was good. And it had, speaking of Superman, it had Martha Kent, aka Lana Lang herself, Annette O'Toole, as Kate's love interest, which is crazy to me. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Annette O'Toole is in this movie, and she's doing a suggestive scene. Granted, there was nothing shown, but she's in a scene with with Nick Nolte, and I'm like, how did this happen? You didn't see that coming? No, I didn't. But dude, 48 Hours, that redneck bar scene. Oh my God. So good. It's so good. 48 Hours, I got on Divida at my LCS. I have no regrets of getting that movie. No regrets.
Oh yeah. Walter Hill is one of my favorite unsung directors of the 70s and the 80s.
Pretty good.
He's done more movies. Like he was responsible for The Warriors.
Yes.
Both 48 Hours films. Tons of other. Actually, one of my favorites of his that has been released in a long time called Extreme Prejudice. If you want a badass Nick Nolte movie, and like it's basically he's like a Texas Ranger, and there's some dudes that come into town and like they're ex-military and they're trying to rob something that's in his town, and so basically it's him against a bunch of like ex-military
Okay.
guys.
All right, I'll have to look that one up. I've never heard of it before.
It was one that hadn't been released on DVD ever. So like if you knew about it when it came out or on VHS, cool, but it's never been on DVD before. So it just finally came out. I think it was like either Arrow or Shout Factory, one of those two.
Oh, Shout Factory is so good about putting out films, man.
Arrow is too. Arrow is a UK
Oh yeah,
company.
them too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing more in these states, and yeah, I mean, matter of fact, Arrow just put out wonderful versions of Flash Gordon and The Last Starfighter in 4K.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know, I watched The Last Starfighter for the first time during the lockdown. I was pleasantly surprised. That movie has a spirit to it that I admire.
I love the ending of The Last Starfighter, especially like the theme always gets me emotional.
Mm-hmm.
It just that's a movie that when it came out, I mean, it was like,
Good.
yeah, I'm of that generation where like it was the video game craze and stuff like that. It's like that's a dream, like to win a video game and suddenly a dude from the Music Man, Robert Preston himself,
Yeah.
with big trombone, Bigelow,
Yeah, and then you get Catherine Mary Stewart as the love interest, which doesn't hurt either. It's like, hey, they really knew how to cast, man. I'm telling you, these movies, these women, these actresses, not just because of their looks, but because of their talent. Catherine Mary Stewart is no exception. I mean, when she looks dead into the camera, I love you, Alex Rogan. Come on. It's like, dude, I want to jump through that camera right now. Just give her a big hug. I'm like, I'm here. It's so good, man. I had that movie on Blu-ray. I don't have the 4K. I don't have the remastered set because I bought the 25th anniversary Blu-ray from our good friends at Amazon. # not a sponsor. But it's a good Blu-ray. It's a good Blu-ray to have.
Yeah.
So that's two. So you got Conan, you got which by the way, Star Wars is a great pick. Second one, but that's two different generations. No offense. What's door number 3?
Yeah, to me, Conan is, like I said, that film is poetic to me. It basically kind of started the whole craze of all like the 80s, kind of the barbarians, the sword and sandal,
Highlander.
Highlander is almost kind of neo-noirish kind of thing. It was its own category.
Which I do like Highlander, by the way.
Oh yeah, love Highlander. Love Highlander.
They're the only one.
Yeah, and frankly, the only one. No sequels, no series,
no spin-offs, no TV series.
Just the original. Oh, the original only.
The original only counts. It's the only. There can be only one. Yeah.
When you kill the last immortal and you get the prize, why is there a sequel?
That's
won.
A great question.
There shouldn't have been sequels.
I have the 30th anniversary edition of Highlander on Blu-ray.
Nice.
So I'm good on that. But what is door number 3? The people are itching and scratching. What is George's number 3 pick?
Okay. A later entry here, but this one hit me later in life. I was in college kind of early on at this point now.
Yeah.
I was actually a freshman in college.
Yeah.
Fancying myself to be a writer, wanted to be a screenwriter or whatnot. And this one hit me as a way like, holy crap, doing things differently with time, with character, with, as the French call it, the mise en scene. I'm talking about Pulp Fiction.
That's no country I ever heard of. They speak English and what? Royale with cheese. A Royale with cheese? That's right. A Royale with cheese.
I mean, you talked about seeing Force Awakens 6 times in the theater. That's your record, right?
Right now it is, yeah.
My record is, at one point it was Braveheart, because the Scottish blood in me just got pumping when that movie came out. I literally injured myself the first time I saw that movie at the Battle of Stirling, when the guy's head gets cut off that killed his wife. Oof. I'm like, yeah, and slam my hand down the cup holder. Man. 3 hours later, when we're leaving the theater, my buddy's like, dude, your hand's bleeding. I'm like, what? I look down. Sure enough, it's covered in blood because I slammed down my hand on the cup holder, cut it open, and never felt it. So the Scottish blood was literally pumping that day. Yeah.
That's an injury.
But yeah, so it wasn't that bad. It just looked worse than what it was. Yeah. But anyway, so that at one point was my record. Pulp Fiction, I saw that 16 times.
That's a lot.
That was first run when it went to the dollar houses, and then when when Oscar time came around, it came back to the first runs. There you go.
It's not a bad pick. It's a good one. That's actually my favorite Tarantino film.
It was until Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out.
Okay. All right. A few people have chimed in on that. Not a lot, but a few. But yeah, Pulp Fiction's a good one, man. I mean, the relationship between what is it, Sam Jackson and Travolta's characters, just.
Yeah.
And by the way, what's his name? Harvey Keitel walks up. All right, you got a corpse in a car, minus a head in the garage. Take me to it. It's like that's so like it's gross, but it's so simple at the same time. It's like okay, and then he takes the syringe and he plugs Mrs. Mia Wallace with it, and you're like, whoa, this is some creepy. This is like crazy stuff, but you have to do it because otherwise she's gonna die of an overdose. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do? Give me a pen. Give me a pen. It's just. Oh my God! It's hey, whatever happened to Zed? Zed's dead, honey. Zed's dead. You hear me talking, hillbilly boy?
I tell you, but that movie just like it hit me because when the trailers and stuff were kind of coming, I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. And then I was watching something, and they're like, oh, we gotta Quentin Tarantino, the director of Reservoir Dogs, like, oh, I gotta check out Reservoir Dogs because this so that movie plays around with time a little bit, but not to the degree that fiction does. And so I was kind of prepared a little bit, but not as much of like how things were jumping around. And by the end of the movie, you see where we are chronologically, where things kind of piece together like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Though we're not solving a puzzle, we're just telling a story that's not linear.
Yeah, that's true. I actually got the 2-disc special edition DVD set that I got for $5 at Target. I know, it's lame. It's not as good as Blu-ray, but hey, it's still the movie, man, and I can still watch it whenever I want. So it's not a bad pick either, because Pulp Fiction has its fair share of moments, especially when, and this isn't even a Pulp Fiction moment, this is a Reservoir Dogs, the tipping scene.
Yeah.
In Reservoir Dogs, you don't tip? No, I don't believe in it.
You
don't believe in tipping. It's like it's a debate that's been had around the world, I'm sure, but it's another situation where you're like, this guy's making some good points, but at the same time, he's kind of a jerk at the same time. It's like, come on, man. Like, these people work their tails off.
Hey, waitressing is the #1 job of non-college women.
Women, female non-college graduates in this country. It's the one job any woman can get and make a living on. The reason is because of the tips. Crap all that. Gee whiz. I'm sorry, the government taxes their tips. That's messed up. It's not my fault. It's just like there is some, you know what I mean? Like those are some conversations that happen with those kinds of characters. You know what I mean?
But yeah, but just Tarantino is just kind of like I've got a couple of directors. Like I grew up a heavy John Carpenter fan, and still am to this day.
John Carpenter's The Thing is a great horror film.
It's one of my top 5.
That's so good.
It's so good. And one of my favorite years to talk about in Hollywood cinema is 1982, because especially the Christmas had a lot of stuff that came out, but the summer of 1982 had so many movies that came out that people see as like all these great 80s movies, and they're classic 80s movies, and that's one of my favorites, but they all tanked. You know why? Because one movie, E.T. E.T. killed them all.
Yeah.
And then it came back at Christmas time and killed everything that was coming out in November and December. So it's one of my favorite years to talk about in movies, but it's mind-boggling that like all these great movies, and The Thing was one of them. Probably one of the best Star Trek movies, The Wrath of Khan, bombed to the box office. There's a lot. There's a lot of movies.
That's an interesting year to bring up.
Yeah. Very, but anyway, but like I said, going back to Tarantino, like he's just one of those guys that like he just like Carpenter, he just grabbed me and said, okay, this is this is a guy to keep an eye on. He's doing things that are interesting, and I love like he's kind of doing his noirish kind of stuff, his first few films, and then he does Kill Bill 1 and 2, which is his whole homage to the Shaw brothers and his whole Asian cinema, kind of hitting all points. And then he wanted to do a spaghetti western, so that's what Kill Bill 2 is. And then we've been getting his alternate history films ever since, or Django Unchained and Glorious Bastards, Hateful Eight, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
that too.
And supposedly, next film will be his last.
Yeah, but don't all directors say that? They always say my next film is going to be my last. They retire for 2 minutes and they're like, you know what? I missed this. I'm coming back. Because how many directors have retired and come back? Look at what's his name, Steven Soderbergh. Steven Soderbergh. How many times has that guy retired? 6, 7, 8 times, and he still keeps coming back.
Well, with Tarantino, I kind of believe it because it's something he's talked about for years. And he's talked about so many times, like his favorite directors, he can pinpoint the movie where they stopped giving a crap and it went downhill. Like, Billy Wilder, I can point out to where he stopped giving crap. I can point out where, John Frankenheimer stopped. I can point out where this guy stopped and la. So I can see that, with him being such, he's a director and a writer, but he's also a super duper movie geek. He's one of us in that regard. And
one of us, right?
So in that regard, he's got a lot more sensitivity to a legacy and to a career, and so he doesn't want to suck.
He doesn't want to shoot. He doesn't want to crap the bed.
Yeah. So I mean, like he said, this 11th film will be my last film. Now he may do a series, he may do, but he's not going to do feature films anymore. So okay, so
that's
I'm very
business,
curious what that last film's going to be. So, but
only time's going to tell. But man, we dropped a lot of titles of movies on people tonight. Man, how many ingredients did we put into this recipe for Fanatic Forum? I think we jumped in like 30, 40 ingredients. This is ridiculous.
We're making
but it's fun at the same time because there's so much going on in the world right now, and there's so many nerd content. To digest, I think is the word I'm looking for, but
indeed,
it's a plethora. It's a lot.
It is.
Man, good films. And the 80s, let me tell you something. The more films I've been watching from the 80s, to familiarize myself with some of the history, the more I appreciate the 80s because some of my favorite movies of all time came from the 80s. Back to the Future, The Terminator, Adventures in Babysitting. You got movies like, 48 Hours, another example. Lethal Weapon. You got Aliens. My favorite of the Alien series is Aliens, not Alien. Aliens is my favorite. You got John Carpenter's The Thing. You got They Live. You got
Escape from New York in 1981.
Escape from New York. The list is just freaking. Speaking of 80s, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. You got Temple of Doom. I don't want to talk about. Last Crusade. You got Back to the Future Parts 1 and 2. You got
Tron.
Tim Burton's Batman.
Tron.
Tron. You got, even though I prefer Tron Legacy to Tron. I'm sorry. Tron Legacy is a way better film in my opinion than Tron. No offense. No, none. Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy is my favorite of the two. And Disney, if you would wake up and smell the freaking coffee, give me my Tron 3. Give me my Tron 3. Okay? Because Tron Legacy left us on a big, big cliffhanger. Okay? And I want to see a resolution to that cliffhanger. You got an isotope from the computer systems living in the real world with Olivia Wilde's character, and then you got the son of the evildoer from Tron 1 running the company, or somewhat running the company.
Yep.
Something's going to come to a head with that, man. Give me my Tron 3.
Yeah, Deckard Jr. I want to say
yeah.
And they cast Cillian Murphy in him, and we barely saw him in the movie. Like, you see,
he was in that he was in the boardroom scene, and that's it.
Yeah, but it's like you wasted a great actor to be the legacy of a great villainous actor being David Warner. It's like, So
give me my Tron 3, Disney. Wake up and smell the coffee.
Well, there's hope because of course Disney hasn't entirely dropped the idea they want to revisit Tron, and Joseph Kosinski, who did Legacy, said, I kind of want to do something different, than what I did with Legacy. I want to continue the story, but I want it to look visually different than Legacy.
Do it. Let him do it. The guy did a pretty good job with Tron too. Give him the third one if you want. And if you want to bring in a new director, that's fine too. Have Krasinski on as a producer or an executive producer, something like that, just so he, can have, a role in the production of the film and like give P's and Q's to the director saying, hey, I think this might work. I think this might work. You know what I mean? It takes a team to make the movie work. So if you put Kosinski as director or as an executive, that's fine too. Just give us a Tron 3. Okay, Tron Legacy is so good, and Tron, what was the miniseries? Tron Uprising.
Yeah, Uprising. Yeah,
it's such a great underrated animated series that only got 1 season. So, give me more Tron. I want to go back to the grid, man. Give me my Daft Punk score, son.
That was good stuff too. But see, the thing that gives me hope is that Kaczynski has gotten in league with Tom Cruise, because his last two films, Oblivion, and then what is now out this week, Top Gun Maverick.
That's right. I totally forgot that he directed that. Totally forgot.
Yeah. So, and both though, I mean, I haven't seen the new Top Gun film, but I loved it.
Getting rave reviews, man. Like, people are saying it was worth the wait. It's great. Like, someone just texted me earlier tonight saying, I saw Maverick, it was amazing. And I was like, okay, that's good to hear. That's good to know.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. The interesting thing is, my wife, had never gotten around to seeing Top Gun back in the day, and so she's got a couple of friends of hers that are like huge Top Gun fans. Like, you got to see this movie. So she finally got around to seeing it. She's like, oh yeah, I liked it. She enjoyed it. So yeah, with me, it was always weird, because I always saw Top Gun when it first came out as like, okay, the jocks like that one, the people that I don't like in school like this movie. I'm an Iron Eagle fan. Iron Eagle all the way. So you want young people in fighter planes fighting terrorists, you go Iron Eagle.
I haven't seen that movie yet. I can't say anything about it yet.
Better soundtrack, because it features bands like Queen, Twisted Sister. So better soundtrack.
That I do know of.
The premise is basically our Jason Gedrick is our hero. He's an Air Force brat. His dad's a pilot. Goes overseas on a mission and is shot down and is captured by the bad guys. At the time, I think they were Iranian or something like that. Even though the actor playing, it's funny, the actors playing the Iranians aren't Iranian. But
that seems to happen a lot in Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, they're brown, so it's close enough. The folks at home won't know that. Okay, some of us do. Some of us have a little bit larger worlds where we know more people of other skin types and denominations and whatnot. So those people are anyway. So young son now gets basically his ragtag band of little Air Force brats and retired pilot Louis Gossett Jr. to get it planned together, and these children go overseas to rescue dad.
Okay, interesting premise. Okay, I've
heard
it before. I just haven't actually seen the film, so I got to sit down and watch Iron Eagle, I believe. Yeah. I'm gonna add that to my list of a billion other things I got to see before I croak.
It did spawn 3 sequels.
Really?
I don't really recommend the sequels. They are movies. They do take up time. They are a better time spent than being stabbed. But if you have other movies that you would like to see, I would recommend seeing those.
Fair enough. I have to write down Iron. This is another thing. This is why we're all simpatico and friends here, because people throw these titles at you, and you got to eventually read or see them depending on what they are. So.
And your buddy James here, and apparently
go watch Iron Eagle right now.
Yeah, it's one of his favorites of all times, and he also agrees that the sequels did suck. So see, there you go. So James, we are in Scottish brethren here, because he was loving on some Braveheart when I was talking about that. So yeah, right here, James, right here, buddy.
I got to see if the Iron Eagle's on a streaming service that I'm signed up with.
I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere now. I know it's available on DVD and Blu-ray, because I have it on Blu-ray. But
look for that.
Sure. It may be on YouTube.
There's always versions of films on YouTube, so I can always look for it there. But we shall see, ladies and gentlemen. Man,
dude, we have gone quite a long time this evening, and I
know it's fun, isn't it?
It sure is. I enjoy that. So, you know what? Wrap things up here. I need to give you one more cheap plug here for your show here. So let's tell the folks where they can find you, what's coming up for And I Quote.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This was a blast. It was a lot of fun. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5, which you can see here on the screen if you are watching this live, or if you're watching or listening to the replay, it's at RyanRPM5 on Twitter and Instagram. There's a link to my link tree, which will take you to the page where you can find my podcast, past episodes. There's a video and audio version, so in case you're on the go and you don't want to see my handsome-looking face, you can listen to my voice on the audio feed, which is completely free. You don't have to even pay a dime for it, y'all. So yeah, and I quote, I got a show this weekend, Saturday. I'm going to have speculative fiction writer LK and Gino is going to be with us at 12 p.m. EST. She's a wonderful person, and that's going to be a great show, great episode as well. And
Nice.
the following weekend, next Saturday, I'm going to have an anti-quote episode with Robert Greenberger from Crazy 8 Press. He's done a million different things in his career, and we're going to explore all that. And you can find more about him at crazy8press.com. And then later on that day, that same Saturday, I believe it's June the 4th, I want to say. June 4th, I'm going to be interviewing Brian Rodman of brianrodman.com because I'm reading his series right now called Memoirs of an Angel, which you can find online at brianrodman.com. Hashtag always support your friends. And I'm going to share my thoughts about it. I'm going to give him what is known on the interwebs as an honest review. So, Brian, you may like what you hear from me. You may not like what you hear from me. I don't know, but you're going to be sitting front row center because you're going to be sitting right next to me virtually in the studio, hearing my thoughts and opinions on Memoirs of an Angel Volume 1. This isn't the complete story. This is just Volume 1 of an ongoing series. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, you can find me all over Twitter and Instagram and so on and so forth. Comic Books The New Class, which is a new show on Back at the Cereal Box Podcast Network with Crayley Vanest. One half of Phoenix Sisters Cosplay. Hashtag always support your friends. She and I are going to drop a new episode in late June, so stay tuned to the interwebs for that. Nice. And more information will drop on that soon enough. But other than that, this was a blast. This was fun. Thank you so much for having me. And we should do this more often because I find that talking about nerdy things with people that share your passions or people that have similar likes or dislikes like you do, it's a beautiful thing. I think we can live in a society where we can still like each other. Even if we don't like the same things, we can still be friends, right? I mean, I hope that's the case. You know, I like Star Wars and Star Trek, but you're allowed to like those things at the same exact time. You don't have to pick one side over the other, George. But this was fun. And in the words of Ben Stein, Bueller, where's George? I can't find him. Oh, wait, there he is. George, thank you so much for having me, man. This was a blast. And in case I do not see you out there, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Phenomena.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a good one, sir. We will see you next time, man. All right. That was awesome, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, don't forget, like, share on Facebook and on YouTube to subscribe. Check out Ryan's show, and I quote, he's all over YouTube. He's on Facebook as well. He's, of course, part of the Back of the Cereal Box as well. Absolutely enjoy having him on the show here. Thank you guys for all comments and questions and everything. Love you guys. You all have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time on the Fanatic Forum.